Hey, really glad to have you. Really glad to have this man back. He's a friend of mine. He is, of course, the sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, and recently announced that he's running for a higher office. It's Mark Lamb. Sheriff, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Now, I'm going to take the credit for this because I do believe that you hinted strongly on my show first that you were looking at possibly running for a higher office. We were talking about the governor's race and how screwed up that is. And then we talked about the Senate race, and it turns out you have now admitted, and you've told the public, you're going to be running for U.S. Senate.
That's right. Look, I look around the state and I just think that Arizona, we need a proven conservative fighter. This seat's coming up here in the 2024 election. Arizona needs a proven conservative fighter that's going to go and stand up for the people of Arizona and fight for the things we love, which are God, family, and freedom.
It's the seat that's up is Sinema's seat, and because I know that recently Kelly just won. So, I mean, I want you to win. Obviously, we'll have you on a ton of times between now and then, and hopefully the people of Arizona can get exactly what you're laying down. But I think they already know you. So the question that jumps into my brain, somebody who lives in Texas, not in Arizona, is I know that most people in Arizona are like you, and they're like me, and they're like people who have more of a red leaning or a conservative leaning than a left leaning or a blue leaning. So why is it that we keep on seeing people like those who are already in the Senate and those who are now running the state government out of the governor's office? Why do you think it ends up going to them when it's a really close call?
You know, that's a great question, Joe. And I've always said that Arizona, when you walk around here, our politics are not indicative of what Arizona is. You know, there's a lot of really just great conservative people here. The problem is that the Republican Party, I think, here in Arizona has been fractured more than anywhere else. And so what's happening is we're getting through the primaries, but then we're falling flat in the general elections. We're losing a lot of our people from our own party. We're losing a lot of the independent vote. And then in the end, we're just not getting these offices. And so what I hope to do is be just a consistent person. I hope that I can get votes, not just from Republicans, all the Republicans. I hope to get all the votes from the independents. And I hope to even bring some of the Democrats over our way as somebody that's going to be a common sense conservative fighter for them.
Well, it's certainly doable. And it's Sheriff Mark Lamb. You can go to AmericanSheriff.com. Sheriff, is there a campaign website yet or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Please go to SheriffLambForSenate.com. Donate, even if it's a few bucks. Look, across this country, Republicans typically get outspent or out fundraised 3-1, 4-1. We've got to do a better job, please. I know you may not be in Arizona, but Arizona is going to dictate more than likely what happens in the Senate and likely dictate what happens in the presidency. And so we need a lot of support here. So please go to SheriffLambForSenate.com. Give us a few bucks. I promise it won't be money poorly spent.
I'm willing to admit that this might not be the correct number, but I feel like it is. I think it was 9-1. The Democrats outspent the Republicans in the last Senate race that just happened a few months ago, and most of that was outside money. So you're absolutely right. Those around the country, and I want to bring this up because you're a law and order guy, but I don't know if you like this, if this is a compliment. I mean it as a compliment. You're a law and order guy with a smile, and I mean that. I've seen you actually on the job, doing the job, and you look like you bring great joy to enforcing the law and keeping the public safe and so on. But I've also seen you turn when somebody acts stupidly out there. People in Arizona are watching what's happening in Chicago. They're watching what's happening in New York City, in St. Louis. They're watching what's happening in cities here in Texas, in Houston and outside of, in L.A. You've got mob violence happening. You've got mob crime happening. And I don't mean the mafia. I mean, these are huge crowds of people that are taking over the Target, taking over the Walmart. So people in Arizona see that, and they don't want it there, do they?
No, we don't want it here. Look, we believe in the rule of law here. We enforce the rule of law, but we don't want to become like some of those larger cities that we're seeing across this country. That is why Arizona needs somebody like myself who's been proven in this, a proven conservative fighter against, for border security, for the rule of law. We need to increase our national security. I believe you achieve peace through strength. And like you said, I bring a smile to the job. I truly embrace the fact that I am a peacemaker. I'm here to protect the people's constitutional rights, protect them from the bad guys. But in the end, don't mistake my meekness for weakness.
And that's important. I had Sheriff David Clark on yesterday, and he was in Milwaukee County, which is blue. The prosecutor was blue, but he would call them out, and he would say, we're going to do this. And when you talk about these big crowds of people committing crimes, he says there is a standard way to do it. You bring in equal force and let them know we're not going to stand for it, or else business will leave town. I don't see you as a guy who took this job because you want to go arrest people. I don't see you as a guy who took this job because you want to go and have shootouts with people. I see you as a guy who loves where he's from, loves his constituency or his community, and wants to keep it safe and secure. And the bad guys know that, don't they?
They do. Consistently, we have reduced our crime index in Pinal County. Look, you heard me talk a lot about the drugs and the human trafficking coming through, but it doesn't stay in my county. That's not crime in my county. It comes through my county, and I'm trying to help the federal government because they completely failed to do their job. Border Patrol does a great job. Those guys do an amazing job.
Right.
The government in Washington, D.C. is failing. But we've reduced our crime every year, and our bad guys know that Pinal County is not the place you want to screw around.
It is Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb. Many people would say, well, you're doing such a great job there. We don't want to lose you to the national stage. But I think conversely, we need you on the national stage because there aren't people like you who are firm enough to dig their boots in and say, look, what Mayorkas is saying on the border is simply not true. In fact, we just had DHS Secretary Mayorkas in front of the Senate the other day, and he was asked directly, is the border secure? He said, listen, the border is secure. And then, Mark, he said, but we're working every day to increase the security. Maybe I'm an idiot, but when you say it's secure, that means it's secure. Why would you have to increase the security if it's already locked down? It's not locked down, is it?
No. If you're buying that the border is secure, then I got some oceanfront property for you in Arizona here, too. Look, that border is far from secure, and I think the families who have lost loved ones to fentanyl, I think the families where we have to go in and explain to them why fentanyl that poison got into the hands of their children, and they found their child dead in bed or in the shower. Look, it should be the federal government having to come and explain that. And so the border is certainly not secure, and those families would corroborate that. And so would those people that are being enslaved every day by the cartels into the sex trade or into indentured servitude across this country.
We certainly hope that in 24, Joe Biden would not be reelected or a Democrat wouldn't hold office in the executive. You never know, though. So should you win, and I want you to, by the way, go to sherifflamb4senate.com, sherifflamb4senate.com. Should you win, you might change the balance of power in the Senate. So one would assume conservatives or Republicans have the House and the Senate, but you still can't move the executive, and they're the ones that get to tell the DHS and the DOJ what laws to enforce and how to do it. So what would your effectiveness be should there be a Democrat? Of course, you'd be much more effective should there be a Republican in the executive.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we hope to take the Senate back. I hope to be part of that. And what it starts with is leadership. It starts with being vocal. The one thing that we have not had here is we have not had senators who absolutely know there's a crisis here. Those senators have not been vocal. They don't want to go against this administration and tell them that they're doing it wrong, that they need to start doing their jobs. We need somebody that's actually going to do that. That's actually going to go and say, look, guys, you're not doing your job, and people are paying the price for it every day. That's what we need. Boldness. We need people that are willing to stand up and say and speak about for what's right. And we need somebody that's common sense and authentic and represents the people of Arizona well. The one thing I understand is that when the people vote me in, that I represent them and I work for them. And I take that very serious.
And you always have it. Sheriff Mark Lamb, go and support his candidacy for U.S. Senate. sherifflamb4senate.com, sherifflamb4senate.com. Those who are representing Arizona now, don't need to name any names, but people know who they are. They have lied and pretended they were more conservative when they really weren't. They were more moderate when they really weren't. You are unabashed in saying, I'm a conservative guy. Here are my values. Here's what I think about law enforcement. Here's what I think about the Constitution and my love for country. Having said that, the Republican Party nationally, I would assume, would have to give you some strong backing. And they're not very good at that. They're just not doing it right now. I don't know if it's because of the leadership there. They don't think they can win these races. Do you have to have a conversation with the Republican Party nationally and make sure that they're going to have your back? Because, again, Mitch McConnell, if he doesn't like you, he's not going to back you, and he's going to purposely watch Arizona go blue again. This guy has made it clear, I'm going to hold on to the purse strings if you aren't who I want you to be.
We've had a lot of those great conversations already, Joe, and I think they're hungry for somebody that's going to come into Arizona and represent it well. I think that support will be there, and I hope to be that steady ship, that run a steady course to where they can feel like that we have this race won. We can win this race. And I know that if they know that the race is winnable, they'll be there to help us. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that proven conservative fighter, which I have been consistently, and I have a track record of it.
You and I have been talking about this for years now, and you've been steadfast. When you first hinted that you might be looking at something bigger, maybe the U.S. Senate, what goes through my mind is, what do you then do? Before you say, I'm running, and you are now. You can go and support him at sherifflamforsenate.com. Before you do that, do you test the waters? Do you sort of put out some internal polling? How do people feel about Sheriff Lamb? I know that you're very visual in the entire state, not just in Pinal County. You're very visual. People know who you are nationally as well, which is a great thing. So maybe some outside money comes in. But before you make that decision, and you and your wonderful wife say, yeah, let's go through this, what steps have to be taken? Do you just say, God said so I'm going to do it? Or is there something else that goes into it?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing was a lot of prayer and a lot of my wife and I sitting down and looking at the reality of what this is, how this would impact our family. We just felt more and more compelled to do it the more we looked into it. So then we start going out and asking people and facing some hard facts as to what your name recognition is, what the issues might be, whether or not I'm well suited for that. And as we started doing that, not only did we feel compelled, we felt like right now where this country is at with the border crisis, with the rule of law, national defense, we need somebody like myself to come in there, that proven conservative fighter. And so the more we looked at it, the more we prayed about it, the more we felt like this was the right thing to do. But ultimately, I would attribute it to a lot of prayer.
And that's the right place to start, certainly. It is Sheriff Mark Lamb, Pinal County, Arizona. Go and support him, sherifflamforsenate.com. Police are under fire by the left constantly. The left owns the media. They own Hollywood, big sports, big music, big everything, big academia, big tech. They own everything. They're going to attack you like you've never been attacked before. You ready for that?
That's actually one of the conversation points we had. I asked my wife, I said, you ready for them to spend $50 million to $100 million trying to destroy our lives? And look, Joe, it started before I even announced. The day before we filed our paperwork, there was bots that picked it up on Twitter.
Wow.
Immediately, people started hammering away at me, sending me nasty emails and stuff. But you know what? Look, I knew what this was when I got into it. It's not for the faint-hearted. It is a tough business. And I'm honored to be able to step out and do this. And I know it's not going to be an easy path, but I love the people of Arizona. I love this country. And listen, the founding fathers sacrificed so much. I'm asked to sacrifice just a little bit of that, and it is my honor to do so. And I hope the people of Arizona will vote me in and let me represent them, because I will do it, and I will do it very well.
I want those who are watching and listening to understand. He's not exaggerating. In Wisconsin, Ron Johnson had $70 million thrown at him to try to get him not to win his Senate race. He did win, thankfully. And the guy running against him was some BLM nut job, and the guy got close. So they're going to spend as much money as they possibly can. They look at specific races and say, if we can pick that off or not lose that number, because they would lose the number should you win, they'll spend whatever it takes. At the same time, as I said, Mitch McConnell won't. So what do you need to do to have those nationally back you? Do you need to attach yourself to President Trump or DeSantis or somebody else? Do you need to talk to somebody outside of the RNC, which just, to me, I think is broken? Do you actually talk to Mitch McConnell? How does that process go? Have you weighed all of that?
You know, I just need to be me, Joe. Look, I think that ultimately it's not them who vote for me. It's the people of Arizona who vote for me. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the endorsement of the people of Arizona. And I think the best way and the easiest way for me to run this course is to be myself, to stand on the values, be solid in the values and in the things that I believe in: God, family, freedom, the Constitution, America. And I think that ultimately people will come to us. I think they'll realize that I truly am what this country was built on: good representation, people who want to serve. And that's what my desire is.
SheriffLambForSenate.com, Sheriff Lamb, FORSenate.com. Go and support Sheriff Mark Lamb, Pinal County, Arizona. Back to the border for a moment. We know that Mayorkas is lying. We know that the frontline Border Patrol folks, as you said, are incredible. They're amazing. They want to do better. We just found out in the past couple of days there are 85,000 unaccounted for children. We don't know where they are. Under Trump, you had 500 kids that were separated from their parents who broke the law, and it was like Trump was, somebody who was a murderer or some sort of a cartel leader. Mark, 85,000 missing kids. How does that happen?
Well, you let the federal government be in charge. Look, I have always said I wouldn't let them run a hot dog stand.
Right.
These guys just really have shown to be quite incompetent on all levels. and certainly as it relates to the border security, which is why we need those proven conservative fighters to go back and stand up for the people, not just the people of Arizona, but all the families across this country who are losing loved ones to the fentanyl poisonings, who are the people whose human rights are being violated by the cartels every day. These are the things that we need to address, and it's a laundry list of things. So we got to get good representation there, and hopefully people will go support me at sherifflamforsenate.com.
One thing that I think people don't, a lot of people watching, listening don't understand, although my audience does because we've spoken about it, is there was communication between Trump and sheriffs like you constantly. There was communication between Trump and governors along the border constantly. He wanted to, and his administration wanted to make sure that you had everything you needed, the resources you needed. He's been in office now almost 2.5 years. Have you talked to Biden? Have you talked to Mayorkas directly? Have you talked to anybody in the administration?
I have talked to Mayorkas just recently. We had a one-on-one sit down, but you're right. Under President Trump, I went to the White House 10 times as a sheriff.
Wow.
He listened to what our concerns were. He understood the value of the sheriffs and local law enforcement in addressing the border crisis, which was why we had more success than ever under the Trump administration. Joe Biden certainly is not sending me any Christmas cards and inviting me to the White House Christmas party.
Yeah.
Not that I'd go anyway with this administration. But I would certainly love to have those open lines of communication to be able to help address these issues that the federal government is solely responsible for.
Yes.
I have no ability to affect immigration arrests. They do. They're the only ones, and they've reaffirmed that in the court under the Ninth Circuit. So we've got to get them, hold their feet to the fire, get them back to working. And I'm thankful to Congress that they're actually holding these committee hearings and that they're doing that, and they're putting the fire underneath them.
Well, I think you're the right guy for Arizona, and I certainly think you're the right guy for the country because you get in there, yes, you'll be representing Arizona, but you also now will have a lot to say in what happens nationally. SheriffLambForSenate.com is the website, SheriffLambForSenate.com. Sheriff Mark Lamb, Pinal County, Arizona. Mark, thanks a million. Anything I can do for you, let me know. I 100% support your candidacy here.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you more than you know. God bless you, brother.
All right, brother. Right back at you. We're back after this. Stay right here.